Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Celebrity Natal Charts. Today, we are going to be looking at the natal chart of Britney Spears, and I'm just going to read her bio because it's going to repeat the information about her birth information. Britney Jean Spears, born December 2nd, 1981, is an American recording artist and entertainer. Born in McComb, Mississippi, and raised in Kentwood, Louisiana. She performed acting roles in stage productions and television shows as a child before singing with Jive Records in 1997. Spears' first and second studio albums. Forbes reported that Spears was the highest paid female musician of 2012, with earnings of $58 million, having last topped the list in 2002. So I don't know, like, is Britney Spears even relevant anymore? But I don't know. I love Britney Spears, maybe? I don't know. But yes, Macomb, Mississippi, United States, born December 2nd, 1981 at 1:30 a.m. Birth time accuracy excellent. All right, let's get into it. So she is the Sagittarius rising Libra. Literally can't remember Justin Timberlake's sign, but I remember when I was recording the Justin Timberlake video, I sort of said that I was going to do the Britney Spears video, bring up some old beefs or something. They're both from the South. Don't remember his rising. Okay, so the rising Libra, the rising Libra. So Libras are great. They're sort of like inanimate objects, like their weights, their scales, their magnets. They're the sign of attraction. Uh, most people might say is why she's so beautiful. Maybe it's because she has a rising Libra. She also has the planet of Saturn and Pluto in the sign of Libra as well in her first house. Saturn, Pluto, yes, and yes, in her ascendant. Um, so let's see. I think Justin Timberlake's had Libra in his third house. So I think Justin Timberlake might have been the rising Leo. And then another thing about Sagittarius, as I'm always like talking about how great Sagittariuses are and how they're like these great, magnificent, super famous people like Bette Midler and um, other Sagittariuses. And here we are, Britney Spears, like super megastar, right? But another thing that I'm noticing is that a lot of the other famous people born under other sun signs typically have rising Sagittarius. So like when I was doing the Capricorn video, it was really hard for me to find a rising Scorpio um, or a rising Pisces because everybody was like Capricorn rising Sagittarius because they were famous. But back to Miss Britney Spears, who is like super ultra mega famous superstar, maybe even more famous than Bette Midler and Jim Morrison and Richard Pryor and like other Sagittariuses that I was thinking about doing these readings on. But so the first house is all about self esteem. It's about your connecting to your father. There's limitations there. Um, and I think that's the thing too. I guess like with her and her thing is that like she sings very well. I've never been the type to like I like Crazy. Crazy is a good song. I don't know if it's like strategically or numerically a good song. Um, but that's her. And so I don't know the relationship with her father, but I guess maybe her father caused limitations for her. And then so and also having Pluto there in the first house too, talks about like her looks changing, causing issues. So Libras are known for struggling with their weight, attached to self-esteem. Pop star, 2008, they kept calling her fat, and like she had kids. So, if you really want to dice up Britney Spears, just call her fat, I guess. She's rising Libra, struggles with her weight, struggles with her self-esteem. Her dad might call her fat or something. And Pluto, I guess I'll talk more about Pluto. Pluto, like I said, sometimes it talks about death. Sometimes it talks about issues with taxes. Other times it talks about, like, for me, most of the time, Pluto's more so like the way that you dress. And I guess like a lot in the past, it's like, if you weren't a construction worker and you were like dressing up as a construction worker or wearing shoes that indicate that you work in construction and you don't, it's like you're a fraud and a poser and all these things. But like, in this day and age, there's a thing called fashion. So, she might dress like, you know, I don't know how much money she has, but, she might dress like she's poor. She might dress like she's rich. She might dress up like an animal, goth one day, preppy the next. And that's very Britney Spears. It's very her aesthetic, music videos and dressing up in costumes and things like that. So, in summary, her first house in Libra, weight issues, limitations, problems with her father. Um, and clothes give a lot of self-esteem too. Like, you might be feeling really lame or unaccomplished, and then magically, you get this like Chanel jacket that's on sale, and then before you know it, you're at all the finest country clubs like Marge Simpson. Alrighty. So then her second house, she has Scorpio, which I'm sure at this point I've done like three rides. I've read a million charts, but in this celebrity natal chart series, I have to have done at least like three rising Libras, right? But the second house in Scorpio is like a very interesting position for me and kind of like comes to me like sort of striking, like your second house is Scorpio, like your cash cow is Scorpio. Um, you know. So to me, this says that she might have like financial struggles, but she also has the planet of Jupiter in her second house of Scorpio. So she's very lucky and fortunate with money. And she may also have a lot of astrological knowledge. She might be very aware of her natal chart and her own superpowers and use that to her advantage. And Scorpio, Pluto, it's death, it's taxes, it's dressing up in costumes, but it's also being sexy. So, where I guess like a second house in Taurus would be like your cash cow is the fact that you're financially stable. Like you already have money, you already have cows in your farm. For Britney Spears, it goes along with Rising Libra, where it's like her biggest cash cow is being sexy, being salacious. Um, if there's no cows in her pasture or no cows on her farm, she has to go down the street and bat her eyelashes and flirt maybe a little bit. Flirtation is a very Libra trait. That's her second house in Scorpio. And then she also has the planet. I think that's it. Yes, it's just Jupiter and Scorpio, which is very lucky, very fortunate. And then, it's my astrological stereotype or whatever you want to call it, knowledge, that whenever the sun is in the sign of your Jupiter sign, it's a lucky time of the year for you. So in the fall, in March, when the sun is in Pisces, or February, in the summertime when the sun is in Cancer, these are very lucky, fortunate times for her. But moving to her third house, where she has her sun, her third house is Sagittarius, which the third house in Sagittarius is like almost sounds like a very annoying person who is competing with you to talk. And she's Southern too, so you go down to her house and you have sweet tea, and you're like, oh my God, when I was 6, I met Shaquille O'Neal, and she's like, well, I had sex with Shaquille O'Neal, and I have 3 kids in secret by him, and a unicorn, like we adopted a unicorn together, and I'm outspeaking you, and I'm better than you. So she might be like a little bit insufferable, especially as a Mercury in Sagittarius too, Sun in Sagittarius, Uranus in Sagittarius, and Neptune in Sagittarius. So she's, her songs, like she sings illusions, sings about illusions, daydreams. Um, I guess like the way that she's been able to open up the world and make the world boundless and, surpass all limitations is being that way. Maybe like if she's in a choir. I always thought she was an Aries too. I think even in the Justin Timberlake video, I'm like, I think she might be an Aries. But she's a Sagittarius, obviously, and but like if you're singing in a choir with her or in a group, which is why I don't, she was never part of NSYNC or Backstreet Girls or whatever, Disney, what do you call it, like Mickey Mouse Club. she stands out. She wants to be a star. She likes to speak louder than everybody else. She likes to, like, you know, back in the day, everybody wanted to sing like Aretha Franklin, so I think she maybe like tries to channel that a lot. Aretha Franklin might be an Aries. I could be completely wrong. Um, but Sun in Sagittarius, like I said, very competitive. I see 10 degrees in Sagittarius, also very famous. She was famous at a very young age. Mercury in Sagittarius, so she sounds competitive. She sounds like a Sagittarius. She talks like a Sagittarius. And what does that mean? Sagittarius is like, I'm better than you. I'm greater than you. I'm taller than you. I sing better than you. I'm more famous. And she sort of is, I don't know, it's 2025. I haven't really heard a Britney Spears song recently. Um, but I feel like her stamp on time is everlasting. That's just me. I could be wrong. 2 weeks could come by. I mean, but that's also the thing. It's like she has a pretty name. She has a pretty face. Like there's tons of people who can sing. There's tons of people who can put on costumes and outfits. But their names are like Batilda or something. Um, which is Britney even her name? Who knows? Uranus in Sagittarius seems like a very complicated positioning. As I say that Uranus has no bounds and no boundaries, so it's almost like running a horse race where there's no clear finish line. There's no gun that goes off. It's like an unorganized horse race. And Neptune, so throughout this entire series, I'm like, I don't know. I think with one video there was like confirmation in their bio, but it's like, I don't know. So whoever got her on television, on Star Search or Mickey Mouse Club, was most likely a Sagittarius. If she has like a Sagittarius parent, it was one of them. Those is the culprits. Wanted to get them, the Sagittariuses. Um, so that's her. And then so the third house and the fourth house also talks about like the environment in which you grew up in. Her having the third house in Sagittarius says that she probably grew up in a very competitive environment. So I only know that she has the one sister, Jamie Lynn Spears, which I think she's like significantly younger than her. Um, but I could see that being a very competitive home life, whether she has older sisters or not, or cousins who also wanted to be singers, and it's like there's Brittany and Courtney and Debbie, and it's like who's gonna be the one. And then the fourth house talks about her connection to her mother and her mother's side of the family, where she also has the sign of Venus. So I would say that she get it from her mama, her good looks and everything. I mean, she could be the spitting image of her dad, but according to her natal chart, I would say that her powers of attraction, her charm, um, all those things come from her mother. The fourth house in Capricorn says to me that she's like very business minded, or when she gets sad or emotional, she turns more into like an entrepreneur. And I mean, okay, just like talking about Capricorn, not all of these bios talk about where they place in the Forbes, like, top 500, whatever list, but she is listed here at Forbes reported that Spears has the highest paid female musician of 2012. It's a very, like, Capricorn accolade. And she has the planet Venus there, 25 degrees. So the age of 25 could have been, like, very significant for her and her career. I don't know how old she was in 2012. You guys do that math. Like, that's the thing too. Is like, I've totally looked at these natal charts before. When I was younger, I knew everybody's zodiac sign. I would probably have never said that Britney Spears was an Aries. Um, I also used to know multiplication. Like, I woke up the other day and I was like, 2 plus 2 is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4. I was like, that can't be right. And I had like spent like before I even remembered that my phone had a calculator, I spent like a couple minutes being like, is it 6? Like, is it what? It was in my mind a little bit. Anyway, that's Britney Spears and her fourth house. I don't know math, and like everybody knows, like she's an industry child, grew up in the music industry. I think like if you know two things about astrology, I'm telling you that the third and fourth house represent like the area in which that the environment in which they grew up. I think everybody can kind of see that very clearly. That she had to like demand her rights. We know that movie sets and places like that aren't the blessed places or the best places for children to grow up. She has a fifth house in the sign of Aquarius, where she also has her moon. And the Aquarian moon is like, Aquarius is very like the sign of like being queer, anxious, anxiety, all those things. But the Aquarian moon, I wouldn't say denote as like simply like, oh, she's gay or bisexual or whatever she could be. Sagittarius woman seems a little gay, but the Aquarius moon for me is just like, it's like a cold Capricorn person who'll never say, like Venus in Capricorn, moon in Aquarius. It's like she's not really much into saying I love you. She has been in a lot of like industry relationships with Justin Timberlake and Kevin Federline and other people, I'm sure. So that's always my stereotype of moon in Aquarius. I'm like, oh, they're never gonna say I love you. The fifth house, or I mean, they will eventually, but they're not like really super about love, and emotions and feelings like that. They look at that as sort of like base or like for lower life forms, which is an obstacle for her. Also, friends. The House of Aquarius, it's technology, it's friends. Maybe she has like, maybe she's like really slow to adapt to social media, as the fifth house also talks about like fame, popularity, and recognition. Maybe she's unaware of how famous and popular that she actually is. I am too, I guess. Uh, Friends are an issue for her. And how does she get over that? Is with her sixth house in Pisces. So she could very well, towards the end of her life or as she gets older, start a church or become more spiritual, talk about astrology, talk about God, talk about love, Jesus, compassion. If she's looking for ways to heal herself from illness or whatever, she might turn to the Bible. Her seventh house is in Aries. So, you know, I might have been wrong about her being in Aries earlier or later or whatever that Justin Timberlake video said. But baby, I was just predicting the fact that her best bet in a relationship would be somebody with a sun in Aries or an Aries rising. She has Taurus in her eighth house. Eighth house is the Scorpion house of occultism, life, death, taxes, but also wants, wishes, and desires. And like I said, being sexy, wants and wishes and desires. Streetcar named Desire is very sexy. Where she also has Chiron. So it might be like really difficult for her to see people without money as being sexy. Um, I don't think that's a completely uncommon thing. But maybe like sexy distractions stop her from making, like, or maybe she's like really numb or unreceptive to like pornographic material or people sending her sexy distractions or thirst traps because she's like the queen thirst trap. Um, Probably also needs a lot of direction with being sexy. Maybe she doesn't feel sexy naturally, but then needs like directors and artists to help her feel and look sexy. Like makeup artists and things like that. Like can't do her own makeup, has to hire someone. Maybe really wants to be a makeup artist, or sees a lot of value in that. She also is like very well known for not necessarily not appreciating drag queens, but being like somewhat confused by them. Like it's like I guess like a known thing in the drag world. Like she's always like, well, how come they just don't become their own stars? Which a lot of them do and have, but I completely understand what she's saying. It's like, how come you're gonna get on stage and make fun of me for 3 songs when you have all this makeup talent, all these costumes, the lighting and abilities? Just be your own celebrity, be your own star. But not everybody's signed by Jive Records. So her ninth house is ruled by Gemini. Ninth house of Gemini. Um, Seems very complicated because the rule of the ninth house is Sagittarius. So as she is like fiercely Sagittarius, Sun, Mercury, Neptune, and Uranus, like close to her soul, she's a Sagittarius, and far out into the universe, she's a Sagittarius. Like, hear my voice. She might even have like a recorded voice or something on some type of like space shuttle or something. But Gemini is about being diplomatic. It's about lying. It's about being deceptive, um, being underhanded. So that might be something that's very difficult for her. But having to be something like Sagittarius is like a pageant girl, like win at all cost. So she may have had to do those things, although those were difficult for her. Ninth house rules like long distance travel and higher education. I don't know if she's gone to college, but it might be difficult for her to go to Harvard and sit in a class and get a lecture. And you're just sitting there, some kid on a scholarship, and it's like, oh God, like I had to compete with Britney Spears. So I don't know if she has ever received higher education, but I could see that like receiving an education while filming television and movies and music videos could be very difficult. And even long distance travel, like paparazzi, people going through your luggage, having to, like, feeling the need or the want to travel first class when you may not be able to afford it. I believe her midheaven is also in Gemini. The midheaven is a degree in between, like, the 10th, the 11th house. I guess it's saying that her midheaven is actually in Cancer, so I'm wrong. But it's like right next door. So her midheaven is like, in a degree in between Gemini and Cancer. So Gemini, it's also the sign of speaking. And she's a singer, so those things go hand in hand. But it is her destiny to be a mother, midheaven in Cancer, where also it's her North Node. And she's kind of super famous for being a good mom. I've seen some stories about her buying her kids Pokemon and things like that, and I think that's like a good, like, she's into Pokemon, her kids into her Pokemon. I think that's kind of like a note of a good mother, where it's like, you know, kids dress up like Agumon from Digimon every day, and you know that Agumon evolves into, what is it, class? Metal Garurumon? I don't know, whatever Agumon evolves into. I'm not a big Digimon fan, obviously. And her 10th house is in Cancer. So it says it's her destiny to be a mom, it's her destiny to be loving and nurturing and kind and caring. I've never really known, I don't really know if she, like, tells jokes or anything, but I've never really known her to be someone that I would say is like a fat shamer or mean. Never talked to her before, but she'd be the meanest person in the world. But she seems pretty nice. I think on, like, Will and Grace they made her mean or something. And she has the 11th house in Leo, so she has a lot of famous friends that probably help her out with her 5th house in Aquarius and her inability to adapt to new technologies. But it's actually kind of interesting to see that being a common theme throughout most of these charts. I think especially in Jason Bateman's chart, where it's like his difficulty updating to technology. And he himself may not have difficulty updating to technology, but his career path and the industry in which that he's in, and I keep talking about, blockbusters and going to the movies and doing theater. So, maybe her kids will, hopefully in a good way, like, overshadow her career, or, make her career better because she's like, I don't know, starts the Jackson 5 but with her own children, or her friends or kids' friends or something. Kid friends. Like, kid friends would be what is it, like Flintstone kids, but like Ross and Rachel, but they're little kids or something. Uh, and her 12th house, she has the sign of Virgo. The 12th house, I always say, it's like the people who make you miserable just from looking at them. Like, I went on to this trip to Mexico, and everybody was just hating on me so bad. And aggrandizing my own ego, I had to be like, okay, so why are these people so angry at me for me having done nothing? And it's like, you have to be like, okay, well, like, they came up under different financial circumstances, they came up under different, like, physical circumstances with their looks, and it must be difficult for someone to make Britney Spears miserable, because it's like, oh, I've been famous since Mickey Mouse Club. I was 8 or 9, and so I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that look at her and they're like, oh God, I could never be anything like her. But with the 12th house in Virgo, and only because randomly, even before I started this project, I had Beyonce's natal chart saved on my phone. Like, she might look at Beyonce and feel miserable because, like, oh, that could never be me. I could never, second house in Scorpio, take her look or her image and use it for my own things. Where Beyonce might feel the exact same way about her. Beyonce does kind of steal people's stuff a little bit, though. Or if not Beyonce, it could be like Michael Jackson. I don't even believe that Beyonce is really Virgo. But it could be like Michael Jackson or Freddie Mercury or other, like, great Virgos in the world. Or, some hairdresser down in Louisiana who just happens to be a Virgo and lives a very simple life with a loving boyfriend. And she's like, this bitch makes me miserable, But she also has the sign of, she has the planet of Mars in her 12th house as well. So I think that if anybody is, like, trying to break her heart or make her miserable, she's, like, very aggressive against it. Like, she's a fighter, she, like, sings louder. She probably, like, scream really well, like, if she's in a horror movie. So, all right, well, there's nothing really, I guess, like, I don't really remember anything about Justin Timberlake because it was such a long time ago. There's nothing really, like, seems Justin Timberlakey or too much really about relationships, but maybe that's the moon in Aquarius where she's like, you know, you were just a passing fad. And that's what I see about Britney Spears. So that's her. That's her natal chart. She seems like a good person. I mean, there's nothing really like jumps out at me as being like, you know, scary or exciting per se. But I do see like a long-standing career of like business and making money, which I'm sure if you were her listening to this chart, or if you are a Sagittarius with the rising Libra, you're gonna be a pretty person who struggles with your weight and very successful and very famous. Okay. So thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing and listening to this video. And, you know, if you really just want to compliment a friend randomly, find a friend with a Sagittarius sun and a rising Libra and send them this video and like, oh my God, you're like the Britney Spears of my life. Okay. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.